All right. Welcome everyone again. Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Gonna talk to you today about the key skills that you need to go after and improve to get a job offer in this competitive market. A few quick Zoom etiquette things before we get started is that you can always change your view up on the top right. If you want to have more of a gallery view, if you want to have more of the speaker view, have everyone's camera and mic off at the moment. What we're going to do is that if you have a question that comes up on the fly, Damla is going to be the moderator for the meeting. So if anything comes up you want to ask, you can send it directly to her. If you do want to make your question public, go ahead and just write it in the bigger chat. Then that way other people can see it. And then at the end, we're going to have about 20 minutes for Q&A at least. So you guys have your questions at the end. We're going to have definitely more of a one-on-one open source discussion there. I also have your biggest challenges that everyone wrote ahead of time. So we will go over those and actually through the presentation as well. We're going to be covering a lot about what you guys wrote for biggest challenges. So a lot that we can do. Damla will also be putting in some links for you guys for things to download and save onto your computer, some resources that I'll go over, I'll show you. And so we're going to keep it fun, keep it light. I know whenever I do webinars and when I join other people's webinars, I hate losing my attention and wanting to do something else. So we'll keep it light, focused, fun. And then after a bit of information, because there are some stats I want you guys to see overall about the market, then we're going to get on to unmuting people at the end, having it be more interactive and such. So again, really appreciate everyone coming. And especially from the Munich Post, from Azar's newsletter. So a lot of you guys coming from Munich, welcome. You will like how the first slide looks. I've got a slideshow, just a very quick one. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time through here, but I do want to show you guys through some graphs that you should see about the job market. So here you go. Most people here today are from Munich, so there's your city. And I'm going to go through, I'll show you a bit of an agenda first, because we're in Germany. It needs some sort of structure and agenda, right? And then I'll show you just a bit about like key stats that I look at for my clients that tell me a lot about the direction of the job market. And it should give you some hope as well. There are some things that'll show high competition, but there are also some things that show that more foreigners are getting hired, and it also shows that which industries have more relative openings. So you'll get these sources, you'll be able to look at them yourselves after this as well. So we'll get you the links for that. All right, let's do it. So again, already went over this, but okay, trends, insights, direction of the market overall. Who's hiring? I'll go over that sheet again. Everyone here should have gotten a sheet about who's hiring in Germany, which companies are hiring at the moment. If you didn't, at some point later, we're going to get to that in the chat. I'll give you the PDF for 160 companies that hire in English traditionally. At least 100 of those are current. So go through those and you'll get a lot of ideas, because I know you guys wrote about where do we actually find the English speaking jobs. A lot of people actually from Azar's list wrote that you're looking for where to locate these companies in the job offer. So we'll go through that. We'll go through what I'll talk about why Q4 is critical for getting hired. More hiring happens in the last quarter of the year than any other part of the year. And the reason is because companies need to defend their budget. They want to avoid budget cuts. So they want to fill up their employment and fill up their work rosters towards the end of the year before the budget resets. So you do see good things happening at the end of the year. And then again, we'll get to your challenges. But actually, before we go into a graph, I want to start, if everyone could write in the chat about where you're tuning in from today. I always think that's cool. On these types of webinars, we can see what kind of audience. I know, like I said, there's going to be a lot of people here from Munich, but if you are in a different place, just write where you're from. I'd be happy to hear from you. Hi, Junaid, Munich. Munich. Frankfurt, Munich, Rome, Munich, Munich, Hamburg, Munich, München. Awesome. Okay, so mainly Germany. We had one Rome, but good to have you guys nonetheless. We probably have about half and half, I would think, maybe more from Azar's audience. So first time I'm meeting a lot of you guys, but some from Immigrant Spirit as well, I know. So let's I'll show you some of these graphs, and then we definitely won't stick on graphs the whole time. We're not going to be boring at all. We're going to get interactive later, but you need to see some stats generally. Always when you're talking, whether it's on your CV, whether it's when you're talking to employers, you know that people here love seeing the numbers. So what do I look at with this? This is the Institute for Arbeit, Agentur für Arbeit. I'll give you their one of their reports after this about immigration. They have a labor market barometer that shows it comes out every month, and then it gives their 3-month forecast for what they feel. It's a column, a panel of, I believe, 30 economists or so. And so right now, their outlook is slightly positive. That doesn't mean a whole lot, to be honest, because the last time we did this webinar in March, also similar, is a little bit less. But overall, that they put that there, and what the middle one is based off of is two main components that they look at, and one is unemployment and one is employment. So people sticking in their jobs and maintaining a low unemployment rate, but also people that are looking for work. So if you look at the actual graph in the top right, employment overall is positive. So you guys have probably heard the low unemployment rate in Germany is good, but the unemployment overall is getting better as well. And that's because when we last did this webinar in March, we were talking about a lot of people getting laid off. So that's not happening a whole lot anymore generally. What I circled over there is that you look at from April to May, overall, the outlook of the market according to Institute for Arbeit, Bundesagentur für Arbeit, it declined. So we had a bit of a bump from April till May. And then ever since May, both the unemployment outlook and overall have both increased. So that's good. Those are good signs. Now, you might wonder, why is employment going down and unemployment is going up? Is because there's certain people that are not necessarily employed. So they're hurting the factor of thinking about employment being good right now overall, because there's people who are either freelancing, they're either coming here on asylum, they're doing things that are not a part of the traditional job market. So in that way, they're not contributing to the employment rate, and they're not technically unemployed because they're not searching for work. So when you're searching for work, and you don't have a job, then that makes you unemployed. So that's why it's getting better, this unemployment, because there's less of that. So there's more people doing other things, or they're employed. So that's good. It's much better than the last time that we spoke and did this webinar when people were getting laid off, which was bad. So this is what I want to expand on you and to show for you, is that this is directly from Bundesagentur für Arbeit's site. You guys should totally save this, and Damla will put it in the chat actually into this site, this link, and you can keep an eye on these things. They update this every month, and even though it's not too particular to you and what you're doing in your daily life, I look at this a lot for my clients because this will give you an idea of what's coming. So you can see right now in August for this month, the overall jobs are low. So it's actually the lowest since January. So that's not great overall for the competition. So there's a lot of people that are competing for less and less jobs. And I'll get to that in a second about who's getting jobs proportionally from last year to this year, who's becoming employed more. and there's a good sign with that, but it's for less jobs right now. So those are the two different factors. The other thing is that August is holiday month in Europe, so a lot of people are out. I don't even do my intensive course in August because hardly any hiring managers respond. A lot of people are out, so jobs aren't getting posted really in August anyway. So this should improve as we get forward to Q4 when a lot of the hiring is going to happen. But in general, going down the last few months, at least from last month, which is a little bit sad to see, but good signs that I'll show you in the coming slides. Another thing that you can always look at as well is that the Vacant, so this is the average time that this is the average time that a job post is open. This is the average time that people are being interviewed to fill a position, right? So that's 5 months. That's a long time. So when you don't hear back from people, and when it's happened to me in the past, you thought you killed the interview, you did really good, and you don't hear anything, you're ghosted, or a few weeks, they say they were going to get back to you 1 week, and then 2 weeks go by. They take a long time. I mean, they really try to, especially in the summer, they try to make sure that and see if another candidate will come along. So don't completely write things off and don't get discouraged if you don't get, the process sped up. It's great when something happens within a month. It's happened to me before, but the reality is it happens on average about 5 months down the line of hire. So pretty interesting, I think. I'll share this with you, the link. Regions. You can also look at where regions are going. So this updates every month. So this is just the last year till Änderung from last year to this year for August, is that you've got Hamburg is way up. So there's 15% more jobs year over year. Way up as in relatively. I mean, look at the rest. So you've got Saarland there at the bottom. They have 20% less jobs year over year. So that's not good. That's really not good. So the east part of Germany, Saarland, some of these places, they're declining in population. They're getting older. Not as much young talent is going there, especially skilled labor is not going there. They could also be automating some parts of the job force that are involving what you're doing, certain industries, and we'll get to the industries in a second, but this is also interesting to keep in mind. So you can look at different regions. Definitely, if you're struggling in a certain region to find English jobs, look at Hamburg, look at Berlin. Look at these places that are creating more jobs overall, and then you give yourself a little bit of a better chance. So the actual openings for industries. Okay. It might be interesting to some of you guys, but sales is number one, and it's been pretty consistent this year. I've been watching this. So the overall openings is most people are looking for sales. And for obvious reasons, in the sense that people are trying to grow outside of the German market, so they need to sell to other markets. So they need people to communicate on the phone, have outreach teams, etc. So that's something to consider if you are in a sales role, is that overall there's more openings. You look at all this red though, you look at the percentages going down. That's what we were showing before, month after month after month, is we're at a low point. There's less open jobs right now across the board. So it'll hopefully change. I believe it will go up in September, but you can recognize that if it is hard to find the English jobs, and again, hopefully that PDF helps. But just in general, there's less jobs right now, relatively, the least since January. But if you're in logistics, certainly logistics is a good place because naturally, with logistics, the default language is English because you're communicating with all these different countries from Germany. And that's how you have to communicate with all the different countries because people don't speak German. So the most popular second language in the world, obviously, is English. And so this is how you can find, and there's a lot of there's jobs for a lot of people in logistics companies. And where's somewhere that's hiring a lot of for logistics companies is Hamburg. So maybe this is why some of them get tied up, some of these trends that we're seeing. So and Munich as well has plenty of logistics companies. If you're in IT, if you're a software developer, you shouldn't be client facing, so that you shouldn't have to speak German anyway. But if you want to go ahead and check out some of these, like a logistics company, there should be more relative openings for you. Medicine and health, one out of every 8 doctors now in Germany does not have a German passport. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So they're really desperate for people in hospitals. If you're in healthcare, it's tough to get an English speaking job because you need to be able to communicate with someone on their bed, that someone that's hurting. So this is pretty tough, but they are desperate. So they do have a lot of open roles. If you can find a decision maker and you can get into a conversation about your profile and you can convince them to have the conversation in English, which is what I do with my clients, then you have a good chance in this industry. Because, oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys heard the story. There was a nurse that left in Berlin at a hospital, and there was no one to take her shift afterwards. She left the hospital in the middle of the night. She said, "I'm done." And then someone said, "Who's taking over for the rest of the shift?" And she said, "I don't know." And there was no one there to do it. And there were people literally on their bed. So, I mean, this is just crazy. But if you're here, you're in electrical energy, engineer, these types are consistently have high openings, get placed a lot. So, and of course, down in the South, machine, auto companies, vehicle tech using AI, GPS tracking, etc. So those industries give some hope. I'll take a pause here. If you think we're being too informative, I promise we'll only have a few more of these numbers. You can put in the chat or you can write Domlin directly if you think this is too numbers focused. But I do believe this is pretty important for you guys to realize and learn about. And this is about groups. So in general, and I'll show you a PDF about this. This is also from Bundesagentur für Arbeit. It's talking about the immigration of the last year. So actually, over the last year, 163,000 more people were employed in May of this year than May of last year. So that's an okay sign. The number doesn't mean a whole lot to me when I hear it, but when you think about it relatively, the number of Ausländers that were employed from last May to this May was up 300,000, over 300,000. So without Ausländers, why is that number so much bigger, but the overall number is lower? That's because without Ausländers, the number of workers that would have changed from last year to this year, it would have dropped. It would have sunk by 139,000. So we all hear it all the time, but this proves without Ausländers, they're just losing workers. So there's not people graduating, there's people going to be pensioners. And you should realize that look at this competition for the so little jobs. A lot of people here are competing with each other. So we can look at that, we can recognize it. And a lot of it actually is Ukrainian nationals. That's up the most, is 38,000. Yeah, just about 38,000. And then 37% rather. And then you have asylum seekers, which is up 11% year over year. So I'll show you that. Don't take it just from me. This is from the Bundesagentur für Arbeit. We'll share with you. This is the immigration report for Juli. What I want to direct your attention to is that that's the overall number insgesamt. So May to May, that's where you see only about 163,000 Ausländer. That's where you have over 300,000. So the increase up 5%. And this was other EU nations. just barely. Look at that. Just a little bit of an increase. So it's not that you're competing with a lot of other people coming from Europe. I mean, it was only up 0.3% last year, other European countries, immigrants coming to Europe, to Germany. So it's a lot of asylum seekers, Ukrainian people, the most, the highest increase, and a lot of outsiders in general. So more foreigners getting jobs, more foreigners going for the less overall jobs, and plus the Germans that want to work in English. So little to say that it's extremely competitive right now, as you know. So here is a couple of I wanted to show a couple of the articles that I was in recently, earlier this year. The Local is a fantastic English speaking newspaper, just like Munich Post. You can get your news there, but it's paid. So they're wondering about, okay, how do you tackle that biggest hurdle, which is from both my audience responses and you guys, is that it's overcoming the language, obviously, at the start, not being able to speak fluent German because it cuts your chances. Less than 4% of jobs last year were posted in English. So you get pushed into that pool of what we just saw, a lot more foreigners for a lot less jobs. So this is where it gets tight. The locals wondering about how do you overcome that hurdle, and we'll get to that at the end. We're going to talk about best strategies to do it. And Wirtschaftswoche as well, they're just wondering about when you're placing people, how does it work? A lot of people are criticizing the welcoming culture. How are you seeing it when you're working with your clients? So wanted to show you guys a couple of those. Again, this is the list. Everyone should have gotten it when you came into the meeting, not today, but when you were signing up for the event. Then I sent this to you actually. So hopefully you went through that or checked some opportunities. If you don't have it, go ahead and write to Damla directly in the chat, and we will be happy to send it to you. So definitely a lot of good ideas in here. I always give it to people the first thing. And if I give it to people on LinkedIn because not LinkedIn, rather, I give you the LinkedIn link because it's the most UX friendly and it's just really easy to go through. But always check the company website as well if it is a company that you're really interested in. And I made a YouTube video about that, but if you don't know, is because the companies don't always post all their jobs on job boards. They always post it on their website. Not always, rather, but they're much more likely to post their roles on the bigger amount of their roles on the website. And then they select which ones to then take to job boards. So a couple ideas there. And then even more granular, if you didn't know, Indeed and Stepstone counted for the most hires last year for job boards. But off of that, I think this is our last graph, I promise. So, but this is really important actually. So bear with me on this, is that this is from Bundesagentur für Arbeit, Institute for Arbeit rather, and 37% of hires last year in Germany came from referral. 37%. So that's almost 4 out of 10 people. And job boards, which is number 2, there in the green, is second. Every year that I've seen, going back to 2015, personal referral is the highest, accounts for the highest method of hiring in Germany. And internet job board last year, at least, you have half of the percentage. You have half the chance that you do almost than you do when you get a referral. So 30 to 40% about every year. And how do you clearly the question is, how do you get a referral? How do you do it? I mean, a lot of people probably here have gotten a referral in the past, gotten a job from it. I have as well. But this is exactly what I do with my clients, my full-time clients, is that I maximize your chances to connect with the decision makers before you apply. Because as we've seen right now, it's super crowded. If you send a cold application, it's very little chance that you'll get it unless you match everything or you know someone there. So we really work on, I reach out to 5 hiring managers every week on my client's behalf. And then we have those introductory discussions on LinkedIn. We get to 3 out of every 10 that will respond every week from hiring managers. And then we take those conversations forward before you apply so that you make sure when you apply, you can specifically note your conversations in your application. And then you know that your applications are pointed and effective. So it goes from your random CV with hundreds of others to someone that you've already spoken to. And a lot of times you then when you target the right person, you're not going to send it to a recruiter after that because the recruiter doesn't know and they don't care about the job that you're doing. It's in a whole different department. Their job is to monitor who's coming in and out of the company on a guard basis, not in the sense of they actually know the daily tasks and the ins and outs of every other part of the company and what they're doing. So when you talk to the hiring manager, it makes a whole lot of difference. And usually you only get to them after an interview or two. What I help people understand is you need to get to these decision makers before you apply. It's critical. And then this makes all the difference so that when you send your application, then it's much more effective. So the last point I'll make about this, and then we'll move on, is that you'll see where people look is usually on the homepage. Where people mainly get hired is from referral. That's what it says in German. I wrote some English there. So I alluded to it there. This is what we do in the program. So this is the local again. They're asking about how do you do it? How do you do this method? What do you if you're someone new coming into Germany, if you're asking me, I've been here for 2.5 years, you need to find someone who can either be a mentor or they can show you the path that they took, like a guide, that it's someone who's done it recently and they know exactly, what you need to do as an Ausländer to find the English speaking jobs. So if you take something from this, which everyone should hopefully learn one new thing from this webinar today, and we'll get to talking with each other here in a sec, is that you should at least learn something about where you need to hone your attention. So which way that you need to do it, and sometimes you need to just find help. You need to ask someone who's doing it already and go behind them, get under their wing, so to say, and let them show you. So this is what I do for my clients basically because it's so new for me. I also am here for 2.5 years and I went through all this myself, hiring a job coach, going through finding my job offer, getting a couple of job offers. So now I know how important this is. And at the very most human level, two brains is always smarter than one brain. So that's pretty easy to follow along. Most of our audience follows along. Immigrant Spirit started 11 years ago, and most the people that are clients now this year, the average time that they followed was for 3 years before they decide to invest into professional and personal help in their job search. So pretty crazy stuff to realize, sometimes you have to get to a point where you need to, make an actual change to get to a point where you get pushed into whether it's a deadline with your visa or whether it's, you have something with the end of your housing situation, whatever it may be. I had a client who earlier this year, she reached out, she was following the newsletter for 6 years. And then she said, her visa was going to expire in 3 weeks. And we had to go through that. We had to go through visa extensions, writing letters. We had to get her interviews so that she could show her local Ausländerbehörde that she was getting interviews to get the extension. She found a freelance job. I mean, but if you wait to the last minute, then you have to make these rapid changes. And so, I always tell people now is if you foresee this coming in your situation, it's good to reach out to people, get some help if you think that you might need it at some point before it's too late. So I'll just show a couple testimonials. I don't know if people have seen my website or not for Immigrant Spirit, but I help with these situations because again, it's so news for me, and I went through it myself just recently, so I know what it takes. I've got a lot of resources from the breadth of the Immigrant Spirit program, going back 11 years, and Chris Piak, who is the author of How to Win Friends and Influence Germans. So I have his testimonial here. I still work with Chris. And then, I've spoke lately on my podcast. I've spoken with consultants in Germany. She's been working, Maduri, and she's been working in the same job for 4 years now after working with us. Then hiring manager from a hiring manager as a director of sales, that's Joao. And then a lot of different people like head of procurement, entry-level jobs. So if you didn't see that on the website, just wanted to note I have some resources for that. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I've been talking for 30 minutes now, so I'll allow I would love to hear from you guys in a sec. We can unmute and then we can ask some do some Q&A. But I really hope some of these things were overall helpful for you guys. And I know that it's Saturday afternoon, at least in Germany, so you could be a lot of places. Maybe you're just listening to it in a park and you have it on loudspeaker. I don't know, but I appreciate you guys listening and taking some of these things, and you guys can get the links for them as well, and save them on your computer. I will make one announcement about the program that I'm doing next week is that I have 3 seats left. So if you guys have looked, the Expats Job Miracle, with the open seats, looking for 3 more people. It's a full-time program. We go until the end of the year until you get hired. You'll get a job offer by Christmas this year. If you don't, we keep going. And then, so I will grant whoever wants to go for this, I'll give a 10% off after this. Just email me, Kevin, I'm interested in going for this. And here's the program information. That is almost $500 off. So this is, you hire me as your basically right-hand man, hitman, to go get you a job with you. Of course, I can't force anyone to go get you a job, and I'm not employed by any other companies. But I will reach out to 5 hiring managers a week for you every week. And with our network now and Immigrant Spirit being respected in Germany, this will greatly increase your chances of getting interviews, which is the hardest thing, what you guys wrote as well. Getting English speaking interviews and getting a foot in the door so that you can prove your worth and speak to what you know and you're confident of. But none of that matters if you can't even get a seat at the table. You can't even get an interview. And me introducing you with our network from Immigrant Spirit and the number of times that we've done this program, and for my full-time clients doing this every week already this year, I have these people built up in these conversations. So we can do whatever you need to do to make sure you get the offer. So that's my one job, is to get you the job. So you can use the QR code if you want, but again, just email me afterwards if you want, and I'll send you a discount code for that. Would love to work with you, or tell me how it needs to work for you, and we'll fit you in for this upcoming course. So I wanna divert now. Let's open this up. We will do some Q&A. I will be happy to answer some people's questions. These are, again, the top 3 that you guys wrote, so I wanted to formulate a lot around that. And this would be a guide for us, so we can totally go into a few of these. Let me go here. Okay. Thank you, guys. Let's go into some of the chat. Okay. Okay, so one question from the audience, and then if someone wants to raise their hand, I will unmute you. Do you help with getting jobs, especially for jobs at a leadership role? Yes, totally. I'm working with a head of marketing. I'm also working with a head of purchasing department coming up for this upcoming program. So all the better, because your profile is going to look great. You're going to have a good LinkedIn. We're going to work on that. And when you connect with the hiring manager for your role, you already have a solid base. You have a solid profile. You're a high ticket, really important person for the company. So certainly we can do that. I've worked with plenty of people so far this year that are in leadership roles, and Chris had as well, going back the 11 years for Immigrant Spirit when he was the owner. So certainly can do that. Um, do you do a one-on-one kind of relationship to get a job? And if yes, does the candidate have to pay? Okay, a good question. Is that it looks like it's an anonymous question. By the way, guys, if you have a question and you want to unmute, just tell me and or Damla, and we can unmute you. I don't know if they're anonymous or if you want to write your name, but yes. So I only work with 8 clients. This is what I did in the spring course, and then July and August we don't even do the course because people are on holiday. No hiring happens. It's a break. It's a summer break. So now we're coming back when the hiring happens, and we cut it at 8 people because if my job is to be able to get you a job, I need to make sure I'm not spread around in marketing or whatever with 20 clients. So I need to make sure that I can spend the appropriate one-on-one time with you. And you get my calendar that you can book whenever you want. So we can work on, LinkedIn presence, CV negotiation, how once you get the interview, um, strategies for that. I also give you an 18-day video course. So you get to look at that and look at the basics of our method. And then, if you don't like it in Europe, for electronic purchases, you get, your 14-day window. So if you don't like the video course, so this is not for me, you can just tell me, you'll get your money back. So there's few resources is the video course tracking guide, but most of it, if you do this, is because you want that one-on-one help from me to go to bat for you. 5 times a week at least. If you want to do more, we can even do more. It's just hard to be able to continuously find 10 fitting jobs a week. It was tough for me. I remember when I did it. I did this as well for Immigrant Spirit as a client. That's how I came to Germany. And it was hard for me it took me hours every week to find the jobs, and that's a bit tough. So if you can find, up to 10 jobs a week, then certainly we're going to be working a lot one-on-one to be able to take those conversations forward. Let's see, Gvansta, nice to hear from you. Is it possible to and I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that question. Gvansta, sorry, let me answer second part of the second question. So that usually you pay the coaching fee is the payment up front. So it's split into two, as I have a deposit payment. And then 2 weeks later, before we get out of that window of your money back, then you make the rest of the payment. So that's how it works. We don't do pay later because I already tried that as an experiment once this year and it didn't work out good. Needless to say, I'm still trying to track this payment down. So that's usually, when you go to a lawyer, when you go to an accountant or someone, a service, and you want them to do the work. Usually you have to pay to actually, enter the relationship, and that's the same with a career coach. So unfortunately, I can't do like a pay it later type of deal because it's too risky for me to work for free, essentially. Again, if something happens and we're not able to get you placed by December, by Christmas, then as long as you continue to provide 10 jobs per week and you follow the structure and you're doing everything we need to do, and then I'm happy to keep working with you until the next program, and I'm your person to help you keep getting a job. If you pay, that's still my job, is to make sure that I continue till you get the job. Okay, so Gavansta, I'm going to get to your question now. Sorry. Is it possible to find a job for PR and strategic communications manager? Uh, it's possible. Yeah. It's it's going to be a little more difficult for the DACH region if you don't speak fluent German because you need to be on top of everything if you're going to be writing press releases or doing the news, right? So you need to have flawless communication for that, obviously. But if you're doing it for other company, like English speaking companies, like for the local that's doing English news, or if you're doing it for market communications like to North America, like for Canada, US market segmentation, or like Oceania, so New Zealand, Australia, then you could do that. You could do certain, yeah. So if you're targeting the English speaking areas within a company, if it's a big company, then you can work with those certain markets. Otherwise, for the DACH region, for strategic and PR, it's going to be hard unless you work with like a very specific English news company. So like Munich Post, like the local. Okay, so I'm gonna get to Hamid real quick. Uh, Hamid, I'm gonna uh, unmute you.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey,
Uh,
Hamid, yeah, can you
nice to
hear?
meet you, and thank you for the presentation and interesting stats. I was not expecting that because I kind of ended up here really randomly and on short notice because I was talking to a friend who was living in Rome with me. Like we were living here both and working kind of in the same industry. I work in IT sector,
Mm,
and but at some point I noticed that this like webinar is not specifically about what I wanted to hear, like about IT job market.
mm,
I just wanted to ask you, I mean, in compared to all the other like fields and industries that you talked about, like the top five hiring ones in English, I wanted to know because as a person who is not like living in Germany and not working in Germany, we often hear that companies at some point will ask you in IT. I'm talking. They will ask you to be able to just speak German to some extent. One question is that because you also mentioned really briefly about the IT and said you really don't have to be worried about it, about the language spoken. One question is that which one is right? Do you really need like to learn German in IT sector at some point? And the second is that how long do you think, based on your experience, for a senior IT engineer to find a job from coming from from another Europe national?
mm.
That's then two questions basically.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, first part is about um, if you really need German for IT roles. It depends if it's client facing or not. If you're doing anything external that's going into naturally, this market surrounding here, you've got the countries that are speaking native German. So in that way, if it's client facing and it's going outwards from the company, then you're probably going to need German. If it's
No,
something
for
like
me,
an engineer,
we,
like non-client facing, and you're doing your tasks for the company and the company only, then the only question is whether the company is comfortable, speaking to you if you have broken German, because the actual job does not require you to speak German. So that's what you have to help people understand. And that's like what Chris was doing as his mission for Immigrant Spirit for 11 years, is that there's so few jobs that actually require you to speak German. It's just that people are uncomfortable speaking with you in broken German. So they don't want to speak English with you. So you have to convince someone that you're the best fit for the job, that you have all the other qualifications and they're not going to be able to find someone else, but you're a story that's improving in German. You don't have it at the moment because you're not from Germany. So that's the big differentiator, I would say, to the first part is whether it's client facing or not. Does it make sense?
yeah, yeah, definitely, of course. Well, I didn't mention that my job, what I do is completely, I'm facing the machine. I'm not talking to anyone basically during the day. The maximum that we talk is like chatting or writing something like information on a ticket that was open to my like team, for example, and just exchanging some information. It's not like client facing. It's not at
Okay.
all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, then I would say, go through that list and go through the companies that are open to hiring English speakers and that we know that do over time, and then some in there that are new that I've noticed on LinkedIn, and then, see if there's open roles for you from those companies, because that's the thing. If you can target the companies that are friendly about it, then you can just look there for your roles.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will definitely go through that list. It's a good start.
Yeah, of course. And then, yeah, for your second part of the question is that, I mean, usually for our clients, it takes about 2 to 3 months to get placed. So, and
Yeah.
that's when you reach out to 10 hiring managers a week. And when you're in a responsible industry, that is, it's worth doing this. So, certainly IT, that people get hired in English and IT in Germany. So, if you really go after it and you make it the priority for you, you should be able to within a few months. You just need to make sure that you look in the right places, and that's where that list hopefully comes in handy, as well as, you can look at the cities. Like that's why I shared
Mhm.
some of the stats about where you need to look, because you definitely don't want to make sure you want to maximize your efficiency and look in the
Mhm.
right places with the right companies, and then go after those only, because then, hopefully you'll be able to do it within a few months.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good. And I just remembered one little question. How much of trouble should I go through for moving from Italy? Because I'm a permanent citizen of Europe. I don't have an Italian passport, but I'm a permanent EU citizen. So how much trouble should I go through, or should I not go through for like moving to Germany and have a contract there and have a permit in Germany? How complicated is it?
I think it's personal preference, right? If depending on where you want to live, you don't have to worry about the visa stuff. So if you really want to do it for a lifestyle change, yeah, I
Mhm.
don't want to tell you anything personally, about
No, no,
Germany. We could
like
talk about it off camera if you want, but usually if people want to come to Germany, it's not just, there is the work factor and, making more money, but also, the lifestyle is probably different. So these are the different factors, but you're not hindered by a lot of the stuff that Auslanders are with the visa and with your residency. So it's pretty straightforward for you. It's just a matter of, your
that.
preference about where you want to live.
The only thing that I'm worried about is the bureaucracy, bureaucratic processes. That's it. I mean, I love Germany. I have many friends, so for me, it's just finding a new like apartment and move. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Thanks, Amit. Okay. A couple more questions in the chat here. Yeah. So Nicholas, I'll come to your question. Nicholas, you're asking about, would you recommend to apply for entry-level roles having multiple years of experience? No, in general, I wouldn't do that, because you don't exactly there. You don't want to undersell yourself, and you don't want to take down the, your confidence in the market for what you know how to do. That's a really unfortunate thing about when you go, months and months without having a job offer. And I've spoken with people that they've gone a year of applying, and is that you start to go for these lower rated roles, and then people will still even tell you that you're overqualified for the role. I bet people have in here have told you that, have been told that rather. I have in the past too. So that's like total bullshit, right? Like if someone tells you that you're overqualified and you don't get the job. But so these are the problems that you run into. So I wouldn't in general. You should still uh, go for, what you're worth, and go for the job that you want, because they are there. It's just taking the right approach to do it. You need to change the way that you're going about it. Be happy to hear about what else you're running into. But yeah, you don't want to stoop down and hurt your confidence on it. So it's a slippery slope to do that. So I agree. I agree. I think you should avoid it. These entry level roles, they ask for multiple years of experience anyway, which is like what? Like you're coming out of a university and they expect you to already have 5 years of experience. So uh, I don't know. It's pretty weird. So um, yeah, if you've already been working, then go for your mid-level role and your normal progression. Uh, Pi here wrote something. It looks like she's left the meeting. So I will address that later. And then Nermin, nice to meet you as well. And thank you for appreciating the information. Hopefully it wasn't too numbers focused for everyone and that we mixed it up enough. Let's see, a couple more here coming in. Um, how long can the applicant rely on the listed companies in the PDF? How relevant is it going to be in Q2? Um, I can't say that necessarily. I mean, for example, this year, I think I've added 30 to 40 companies. So, it doesn't change all that much. Some of these are that you'll see in the form are A-lister companies, so they're big ones that people have heard of that, they have specific departments that are open to English speakers. Like, for example, I did an interview recently with a guy at BlackBerry, and BlackBerry hires English speakers. So I believe they had like 8 roles open last that we did the interview in Frankfurt. So, there's some companies that everyone knows about that are big that they're friendly about it. So you can bet that those are going to be there next year. Startups, most startups fail. So kind of hit and miss on those. If they're not running good this year, they might not be in business next year. So um, they hire English speakers at the start just because it's a good international community. Um, and it might even be cheaper sometimes hiring people from outside of Germany, or at least they try. But you don't know if these companies are going to be around. So it's a mix of big companies and startups. So uh, I couldn't tell you how many next year. Couldn't predict, but for this year, yeah, I would say I think I removed maybe like this year I removed 10 to 20 companies. So it's not that much. Which are the benefits to get only the call you offer? Um, hey, Nelly. Which are the benefits to get only the call you offer if we don't take the full course? So right now I have a consultation rate going. I was just trying it as a project the last 2 weeks. It worked out really well. So I think I'm going to extend it. So I offer a 45-minute session for 119 euros. And it's just to get to know your situation in depth, like a diagnosis, like um, yeah, a situation overview. If you go to like a lawyer, for example, to understand what we need to do, how to make a plan of action for you. We have a follow-up session as well, so that we can work on your LinkedIn. We can go over your CV. So the main points so that we can make a framework for you. So that's the other service that I help with to run the business. So we can do that aside from the full course. It wouldn't necessarily help you get the job all the way. Wouldn't be there every step of the way, but it could certainly open up some things more than this on a personal level to point you into to better directions to hopefully help you out. Um, okay, yeah, thanks, Nally. Damla, looks like you wrote another question. Do you also have also coaching if I'm new at the market and have to choose my career path, or it's more technical process of finding a job only? Yeah, we can do so. This is the same. I would say the same thing that I was just referencing with the consultation package that I have going right now. I want to open and be flexible to whatever you need most in your career, what you need to do. most people that we speak with Immigrant Spirit are struggling to find a new job. But if you want to, go through and figure out even before jobs or hiring managers to target and companies, what even to do, like which industries to work in based on your degree, based on your background and experience and such, then be happy to help you with that. So we can totally do that. I'd be happy to meet you and give you some more general, pointers and direction before you get into more more precise companies and what to do with finding English jobs. So I would, yeah, be happy to do that, to be more broad with that. So looks like one more question is that at least at the moment, Swaya Sira, what kind of roles to apply for with a project manager profile in banking and financial services industry experience? The banking and financial services industry with a project manager profile. Okay. On that list, there are some startup companies in Berlin that I know of, like Raisin, like N26, that hire English speakers. They're also looking for project managers. I believe project management was the number one most desired soft skill either this year or last year, according to LinkedIn and according to job posts in Germany. So that is really positive for your case. Banking and financial in general, you're going to want to target Frankfurt because that's where their industry is. Now, if you're looking for more English speaking roles, I would recommend looking in Berlin. Uh, Hamburg is not so much banking and financial services focused. So I would say those are my tips. I would look in Frankfurt if it's too big, DACH region in German. Um, Companies, then I would look in Berlin for more startup financial companies that are friendly to English speakers like Raisin and N26. What is the status of smart working today in non-client facing roles? Smart working, yeah, thanks. Smart working is a framework that enables colleagues to have more flexibility in where or when they work, where this is possible. Make okay, okay. Yeah, good question, Hamid. This is after COVID, it's improving. So like before COVID, we didn't have any opportunity to work from home really, hardly anyone. And now it's improving a lot. A lot of people. And actually, I just read earlier today, I believe it's 11% of companies now are implementing 4-day work week in Germany. So that's pretty cool. That's also kind of like smart working, I would say, being more flexible with that. So whether it's a work from home, a 4-day work week, or bringing your dog to work. So I think that's some companies are showing more flexibility to those things. I've seen one of my last companies, they allowed you to bring your dog to work, for example. So some of these unconventional things, non-client facing roles. I mean, I think that yeah, I think it's the same for everyone. I think you should be able to work from home if you're non-client facing, unless you're at an older company that is stuck in the past. But that's what I would say for that. We are right at time, guys. Nally, I'll answer your last question. This will be the last question, guys. Which would be your general comment about project management positions in the renewable energy sector? I've found the German language a bit constraint for the required interaction with a lot of teams and areas. I would say Nally probably best. I don't know the answer to this right off the top of my head, but I would say again, best bet to go through our list that we've comprised and find based on renewable energy about. There is what is there's a windmill company up here now. Forget Damo. What could you write in the chat? What's the name? Vestas. Vestas hires English speakers, I believe. So might want to look there. They're probably looking for project management uh, people. And so other than that, I don't know really. I couldn't answer this question because I don't see not a lot of my past clients have been in renewable energy sector, to be honest, but I do know Vestas I've seen has hired English people. So I would, my advice would be to look through the list, see if you can get some new ideas, and then you can write me directly. And then we can make a plan to approach that, or I'll answer this further on email, more specifically about certain companies and different roles for project management. So, all right, guys. Yeah, thanks a lot.